Its volunteers wear gay pride badges. The National Trust has had a torrid year, but nothing has angered its supporters in Cornwall as much as a tweet promoting a Mother's Day cream tea at one of its properties. And if you're wondering what the problem is, the advert came with a photo showing a scone dolloped with clotted cream with jam on top, which is apparently a heinous crime. I think I do cream before jam. Is that terrible? Do you do jam before you put cream on? Oh, Dancing Glenn's a bit worried. I feel like I should move on. Also, my kind of story, the knit fix, how cross-stitch and pearl could save the NHS millions. This is in the Sunday Telegraph. The hobby is said to be as relaxing as yoga, distracts from chronic pain and can boost a person's well-being. I couldn't agree more. Something else we're talking about. We're asking what your walk-in tune would be if you are going to be doing a boxing match. If you were walking into the ring, what would inspire you? I have mooted potentially a bit of Leo Sayer and Mech. And it does start with Hit Me Baby, which is perhaps not the best one for a boxing walk-in, is it? Hit Me Baby. Actually, maybe I changed my mind. Maybe we don't want that one after all.
BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
The news on the way. How are the roads looking?
Well, it's busy on the A1 Dossie southbound as you head down, approaching Wansford towards Peterborough, mainly because of just volume now. There was a crash earlier at Old Walton that's long gone. The A47 is slow each way at Wansford on the sensors. Also really slow towards Guyherne, I've just spotted there on the eastbound side particularly. Usual delays on the A14, eastbound from the Alconbury Spur in patches towards Cambridge services. Westbound there's a queue from Spittals to Brampton. Really slow each way at Buckton on the A1 as well, by the way. Unusual, I would say there. M11 seems fine now if you're Stansted bound, and no particular problems on the trains this morning. Keep us up to date. Anything that's happening on the roads, do call us on 0330 123 3551. James Worley, BBC Radio Cambridgeshire Travel.
Thank you very much, James. I'm very intrigued by how similar to Dotty I sound. It's Thordies with your breakfast show through till 9. More talk of white-collar boxing in the next hour. Should it be banned?
A passion for Cambridgeshire. FM, online, on DAB. This is BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
And we will continue to celebrate the genius of Sir Ken Dodd, the comedy legend who's died aged 90. The time is 8 o'clock with your news for Cambridgeshire. Here's Andy Lake.
Thanks, Thordis. Good morning. Sir Ken Dodd, the irrepressible performer who rocked audiences with laughter over 7 decades, has died in the house where he was born. He was 90 and had been suffering from a chest infection. On Friday, he married Anne, his partner of more than 40 years. Angus Crawford looks back at a life of laughter.
They said if you hadn't seen Ken Dodd live, you really hadn't seen him at all. In the last years of his career, his shows could go on well past midnight. He thrived in front of an audience. As he once said, happiness is hearing the sound of laughter. He made his professional debut in 1954. Over the next 10 years, the whole country came to know the comedian with the uncontrollable hair and protruding teeth from the Liverpool suburb of Nottingham.
Day for going up to a kilted Scotsman standing over a puddle and saying, I see it's a full moon again, Jock.
In 1965, Ken Dodd topped the bill at the London Palladium, took part in the Royal Variety performance and had a #1 record with the sentimental ballad Tears. In 1989, he was accused of tax fraud and evasion, but after a trial that lasted 23 days, he was acquitted and was able to resume his career.
As a crackdown on so-called white-collar boxing is being discussed by the local authorities, one boxing coach in Peterborough says the safety of fighters is paramount. It's a form of boxing in which people in white-collar professions train to fight at special events, usually with very little boxing experience. After the death of one boxer in Great Yarmouth, Peterborough City Council and other authorities are now looking to change the regulations. Vic Imbriano from Vic's Boxing Gym in Peterborough runs charity events involving the sport.
I put a training camp on for about 10 weeks. They're all my lads that come inside to my gym. We put the shows on probably every couple of months, raise money for charities and all sorts of things like that. But the way I monitor it is they all train together. They're all matched equally. And when we do the fights on the night, every provision in place with top doctors there. So if we see anyone who's in trouble, he stops that fight immediately.
Peterborough City Council say they're looking into new ways of formulating a list of measures that each boxing premises would need to adhere to prevent the risk of serious injuries and death. The National Security Council, a cabinet committee chaired by Theresa May, is to look at the latest evidence about the suspected poisoning of a former Russian double agent and his daughter in Salisbury. An assessment will be made of who might have carried out the nerve agent attack. Sergei and Yulia Skripal remain critically ill in hospital. Residents of Newmarket have expressed concerns over the potential closure of a pedestrian railway crossing. The town's Wetherby crossing is one of many in our region which Network Rail is proposing to shut or downgrade. A public inquiry is scheduled to last 5 weeks. Dr. Rachel Woods lives locally and says she's disappointed.
It's been such an important part of the way people get around town for so long. I'm horrified, really, because I know the effect it will have on people that live on the south side of the tracks and on the north side of the tracks. It's crossed 400 times a day. It's going to have a huge impact.
A Network Rail spokesperson told BBC Radio Cambridgeshire that the proposal to close this crossing is currently going through a statutory process and any development will be communicated within due course. And finally, an intensive day of action against burglars will be carried out by Cambridgeshire Police today. The force say there's been a 34% rise in incidents in the 12 months to February. Today they'll be visiting known burglars, arresting suspects and visiting residents to offer safety advice. And as Tim Peake Sawyer's spacecraft is set to be displayed at Peterborough Cathedral, the Dean has described the news as pretty amazing. The cathedral was chosen by the Science Museum Group from a shortlist of 5 venues across the county. The craft was used by Tim Peake for his mission in 2015-2016 and will be on show from August until November. Chris Dallaston spoke to BBC Radio Cambridgeshire earlier today.
Seeing this marvellous piece of modern technology kind of located in our extraordinary 900-year-old feat of engineering and beauty that is our cathedral. So the two together will make an extraordinary combination, I think. So you'll see the whole kind of effect of what's really quite a tiny piece of engineering. It's really quite small and sort of in the kind of vastness of the cathedral. I think we'll kind of get that sense of the sort of vulnerability, really, of those astronauts as they descended back from this mission.
Sport now, and the new Peterborough United boss Steve Evans says his players' destiny is in their own hands. Posh's 4-1 win over Charlton on Saturday leaves them a point adrift of the League One playoff places. Meanwhile, Cambridge United caretaker boss Joe Dunn says draws from a losing position almost feel like wins. The U's late equaliser at Wickham followed another against Luton a week ago. The weather for Cambridgeshire, plenty of cloud today with a whisk of showers and even some longer spells of rain too. Feeling mild, though, highs of 10 Celsius, that's 50 Fahrenheit. There's more news as it happens at bbc.co.uk/Cambridgeshire.
Now,
it's 5 minutes past 8, everyone.
I know that if I do this, I am properly setting myself up.
Okay.
But did you just say there was a whisk of something?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Thordis. Yes.
But that just made me smile so much. And we're celebrating Ken Dodd today. It just feels like that would lead really well into a Ken Dodd joke.
Yeah, a whisk of Wayne today.
Whisk of Wayne today. Thank you, Andy. There's more Andy on the way later.
This is BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
Just wait and see now. The karma, I can feel it. It's like sitting on my shoulder waiting for me to trip up now. I've pointed that out. It is Thordis here on your breakfast show all this week. As a challenge over the next hour, see how many people call me Dotty. It seems I sound quite similar to her. She is off having a well-earned rest. I think she's in New York. So I've moved from drive time, set my alarm quite a lot earlier. Having a bit of a bad hair day, but we'll move on. Less about me, more about Sir Ken Dodd. We are paying tribute this morning to the legendary comedian who has died at the age of 90. So many people have a favourite memory, a song or a joke. It's not easy to deliver them like brilliant Doddy did.
A fellow went to the doctor and said, Doctor, every time I bend over, I feel like Donald Duck. Every time I sit down, I feel like Mickey Mouse. Any time I lean to one side, I feel like Minnie Mouse. And the doctor said to her, how long have you been having these Disney spells?
Turns out our very own Edwin Overland can do Doddy very well, and joke delivery, his favourite Doddy joke there. We've got more memories coming up before 9. And if you want to send across your favourite Doddy joke, or indeed the last time you remember crying with laughter, you can text us super easily. 81333 is the number. Start your message with the word CAM. Also, we're asking, should white collar boxing be banned? There are calls for the fights, often involving office workers with no prior experience, to be carefully regulated after a recent fatality. Those involved told us they know what they're getting into.
We all know what we sign up to, Chel, don't we? We know every time we go in that ring, we're treating it like our last fight. You've got to go in there like with that attitude. If you don't, then it could end badly.
But not everyone agrees. More on that next. It is Thordis here at breakfast. If you're picking up the phone to us, 03459 25 2000. You can find me on Twitter at Thunderfairy.
This is BBC Radio Cambridgeshire.
So as I was just saying, increasing concern that white-collar boxing gives professional boxing a bad name and needs to be banned or, at the very least, regulated properly. The controversial sport involves people in white-collar professions fighting at special events, usually with no boxing experience. Peterborough City Council and other authorities are now looking to change the